from General Cruz for the annual update of Camp Ripley. So General, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Mayor, we're gonna try to bring our slides up and hit presentation and see what happens here.
Okay.
All right, so it doesn't look like it's gonna let me present, so we're gonna increase the font on this slide. So hopefully you can read it. Move the notes down. All right, hopefully everybody give me a thumbs up if you can see that, somebody. All right, perfect. Good evening. I'm Brigadier General Lowell Cruz. I've had the privilege of meeting with you in person many times, and I miss coming to the Baxter City Hall tonight to see you again in person. This is probably one of the most enjoyable parts of my job, which is to get out every spring and meet with leaders across the community to talk about Camp Ripley and what's happening with our great installation here this coming summer. And more importantly, to kind of give you an update of where the National Guard's at. So I'm going to ask for the next slide, please. Page down, there you go. Like every organization, we really focus on having, an understanding of our base values and our culture, and that what drives is this mission statement, which, is to provide the best customer service for people coming to train at Ripley. And while we do that, we're training soldiers for our nation's worst day, National Guardsmen to support our state's worst day, and emergency managers and police and fire as well that are here supporting their community and training for their community's worst day. And while we do that, we want to be the best neighbor we can. So the heart of this presentation tonight is to bring you abreast of where we're at for the coming year, and once again solicit your help in telling your constituents about what's going on at Camp Ripley for the following year. Next slide, please. I always think it's important to recognize my boss. So Major General Sean Mankey was nominated in this last summer as our new adjutant general. He replaced Lieutenant General John Jensen, who went to Washington, D.C. to be the head of the Army National Guard for the whole nation. So pretty big honor for General Jensen. General Mankey is a great friend of mine and a great leader. And the Minnesota National Guard are in good hands in his leadership. Supporting him is his senior enlisted advisor, Sergeant Major Brian Soper. And his job, obviously, is to keep the tag abreast of all the feedback that comes up through the enlisted ranks and to advise him on things that are involved with the effects on our enlisted soldiers. So next slide. So Camp Ripley in 2020 had a pretty serious impact on the economic side. We love to show this slide to our community partners because we love to tout the fact that Camp Ripley economically as a driver in this region. And our payroll was probably the largest portion. You can see in the bottom there that our 3-year average is around $77 million. This year we were well over that. That increase in payroll was probably predominantly tied, surprisingly, to COVID and our need to mobilize National Guardsmen throughout the whole year to support the National Guard's COVID operations. And I've got some slides coming up that'll talk that a little bit, but we saw a marketed increase in soldiers on state active duty this year, and that drove our payroll here in the local area. And so pretty proud of the numbers that we provide as an economic driver into central Minnesota, and pretty proud to be part of the Baxter family. Next slide. So in 2020, we averaged about 350,000 soldiers at our installation, what we call a man day, which is one soldier for one day. We count them every day and add them up. And in 2020, we saw about 425,000 man days, which was an increase over our average. And it's indicative of the amount of extra work that we've done this last year in support of COVID operations for the state. Meanwhile, our civilian use of Camp Ripley dropped significantly with COVID. We normally see about 65,000 man days, and we were about half that this year. So I guess from my perspective, Camp Ripley wasn't any more busy than normal. This last year, we just had a lot more mitigation to keep everybody safe and allow them to effectively train in this environment of a pandemic. Meanwhile, my environmental team did an amazing job again of competing at the national level. Both our environmental stewardship team won the National Guard Environmental Award, and my natural resources team competed at the National Guard and the Army and the DoD level, and once again became the top installation in the natural resources conservation category. So pretty good accolade for their continued operations in protecting my natural resources here on the installation. If you've driven by Camp Ripley along 371, you'll see that this last summer we spent some time building another section of railroad beside the tracks that feed Camp Ripley. We now have a mile-long siding on the side of the railroad tracks there. This allows me to increase my throughput capacity as we support our armor brigade and its ability to mobilize outside of Camp Ripley into other places in the world. And what was an operation that took about 10 days, just with that rail siding, I was able to shave it in half. And we can now move 2 trains a day. And if we have to, we can get the armor brigade out of here in about a 5-day period, which is pretty significant as we support the Department of Defense. This last year during the winter, we hosted several joint partners here. When we talk about joint partners, that's when the Air Force or the Navy or the Coast Guard shows up and trains at our installation. And the first group there is an Air Force unit. The CRG stands for a Contingency Response Group. The next 2 elements are Naval and Coast Guard dive units. And they spent a lot of time in February diving under our ice here. And we're very excited. The Coast Guard has decided to move their whole winter diving school here. They used to go to Canada to do that work. And with their problems of getting across the border in the last year, they have decided that maybe having a schoolhouse in the United States would be a good thing. And they have picked Camp Ripley for that location. So we're pretty excited about that. Throughout the COVID response, we truly served as a logistical hub for the Minnesota National Guard, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in subsequent slides. And then finally, I had a whole infantry battalion in June at the height of the what we didn't know about COVID. Successfully bring 800 soldiers here, put them in a bubble to protect them, and they were here for about 3 weeks before they went to Fort Bliss as they prep for deployment. And we're proud to say that they deployed with all their soldiers and didn't have any kind of major outbreaks of COVID while they were here. And those soldiers went to Africa and spent the last year in Djibouti helping AFRICOM as the QRF for the nation or for the continent of Africa. And finally, we supported the 1st Armor Brigade Combat Team's rotation in the National Training Center. Their trip to Fort Irwin, California started with a 3-day stop at Camp Ripley, where each soldier was tested for COVID, and those that were positive were quarantined, which allowed us then to protect that whole formation and send them to California in a safety bubble that allowed them to complete their exercises. And we were the first Army unit in the whole nation to be able to go back to collective training in July when we did that, when we sent that brigade to the National Training Center in California. So we're pretty proud of that accomplishment as well. Next slide, please. 2020 has been a year of National Guard response to the state. And we really learned quickly how that could ramp up in June after George Floyd's death. And we were forced to quickly move 3 battalions of units that were here getting ready to go to National Training Center. In about a 12-hour period, we turned those units, dug all their equipment out of the locker and pushed them into the Twin Cities to support the civil unrest that we had there. And throughout that period of time, we were the logistical hub, pushing cots and meals and repair parts down to the 6,500 soldiers that we had deployed in the Twin Cities area. And then on the backside, as we demobilized those soldiers, Camp Ripley became the location for, once again, for our soldiers to get COVID tested. And I would suggest that if there's anything we've gotten really familiar with is getting COVID tested. So next slide, please. Meanwhile, throughout the summer and really into the fall, our National Guard medical teams have been very active in its support of the state's medical response to COVID. We've had almost 200 soldiers that participated in running community-based testing sites. Throughout the year, we ran 11 different sites, and about 300 soldiers got to go to almost 21 different facilities for to help long-term healthcare facility support, that nursing home support. And we currently still have soldiers in 4 facilities across the state that are helping long-term healthcare staff continue to run their facilities as they get through depletion in manpower due to COVID. Around 400 soldiers have spent time at 28 different sites conducting vaccination efforts as we push out the vaccine to our communities. A lot of those efforts have occurred in the Twin Cities area as we've tried to provide support to the underserved inner city population. We've had 12 soldiers full-time here in Camp Ripley running an isolation support facility. So as our soldiers get test positive for COVID, we've got a place where they can go and recover from COVID without having to go home and expose their family. And throughout the year, we've had, at one time, we had up to 10 soldiers at one time in that facility. And we continue to keep that facility open right now as our soldiers are supporting the Operation Safety Net operation in the Twin Cities. And we'll continue to use that as a location for support of soldiers that test positive. Obviously, with our vaccination efforts, we've also worked on vaccinating our force. We're about a third of the way through the National Guard and vaccinating all our soldiers. And that program is working very well as well. And then Camp Ripley is the home to the National Guard's medical warehouse. We have a large medical warehouse operation here where we repack and retrofit medical kits for medical units. And because of their supplies on hand, we pushed well over $7 million of PPE into the state of Minnesota, as well as over $10 million of medical supplies have been distributed nationwide. And currently, we have about 1,500 soldiers that are on duty in St. Paul and Minneapolis, supporting the operations of the St. Paul Police and the Minneapolis Police as they secure Minneapolis in support of the Eric Chauvin trial. Those soldiers are predominantly securing the Hennepin County Courthouse and associated county buildings there, as well as the St. Paul Police Department's headquarters as well. And throughout the next month and a half, we will continue to increase our soldier presence there. And as we track the trials completion, we will continue to increase troops available to support those law enforcement agencies so we don't get caught by surprise like we did last summer. And I think we could say that right now we feel we're having a positive effect in the security situation in Minneapolis right now. Camp Ripley's role in all that is we become the location where all them soldiers come to initially, and we in-process them into state active duty. We make sure they have all the right equipment, and then we push them down in the Twin Cities area. Next slide. I thought it important this year to talk a little bit about how National Guard resources come into a community. Some of you may have seen this before at other briefings associated with emergency management. But what I really hope is that you can, over coffee at the local donut shop, continue to talk to your constituents about how the National Guard comes to support them in an emergency. And so, you know, our typical missions involve natural disasters, flood and winter storm response. We're gearing up for potential wildfire response right now in northern Minnesota. And to get the National Guard to that location, it starts with your county sheriff. It's his job to assess what he needs to support his county. And that request goes up to the HSCM and the State Emergency Operations Center, where they'll prepare and provide the governor an executive order, which he signs and that turns the National Guard response on. And on the right-hand side there, you'll see a lot of the typical missions that we do. And they're really in line with what we're currently doing down in the Twin Cities. We're providing security, we're providing some traffic control. And the other missions there are really focused on what we do in natural disasters and emergencies. And this, if anything, this last year, we've had a lot of practice in all those things. So I'm pretty proud of how my National Guard's been able to support our state and our nation in reality. So give you kind of an update of where we're at construction wise on the installation. We've got several projects in 2020 that were completed. Even with the COVID restrictions, our construction didn't slow down at all. And we completed 2 longhouses in Area 5. So we're almost done replacing all the tin huts in Area 5 that are, and believe it or not, we've actually moved all the tin huts in Area 5 out of that area. And we've got 2 more longhouses that'll get built this summer, and the building part of Area 5 will be complete then. We also completed the new SIM Center. We added a fire hall facility. So the picture on the lower left there is of the front of our fire hall with the fire engine sticking out. That facility's got 6 bays in it. We house about 12 different firefighting apparatuses that belong to my full-time fire department. Pretty proud of the memorandum of agreement that we signed this last year with Morrison County. And my fire department now has responsibility for part of the 371 corridor going up north towards Baxter and Brainerd, specifically helping cover that Fort Ripley area. And it's pretty cool that, you know, that one of the few full-time fire departments north of the Twin Cities is able to support its community as well as they do. We're also renovating some other facilities. And the final element there is we continue to work on our microgrid for our electrical backup. We put backup generators at all our substations this last year. And the next stage of that is to bring in the computer system that'll help balance the load if we do come off the grid. And will give us the electrical independence that we seek to be self-sufficient. Next slide, please. So 2021, and you can see that we've got just as many projects planned to come out of the ground in 2021. The picture there is of the historic Nelson Hall, which was our post headquarters. It's the only building on the installation that's on the National Historical Registry. We are going to invest about $2.8 million into the interior of that to renovate it to become the new post headquarters. And my team that works for me will move into that building sometime 12 months from now. I'm pretty excited to see it come out of the ground. The construction firm that's working on that is Eagle Construction, which comes out of Little Falls here. And they have many different projects on the installation and are a good partner for us. The next project on the list is the state bond, and 4 years ago gave us some money to build a joint emergency response training center. What that facility is going to be is a series of apparatuses to help train fire emergency responders to oil car spills, oil car fires, and fires associated with pipelines and pipeline spills. And so that'll be a great facility here that's going in the middle of my emergency vehicle operators course, and is going to add to the number of apparatuses that we have on the installation to support our local firefighting capability. Along those lines, Central Lake College out of Brainerd continues to train its firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 here on the installation, and that'll just be another area that they can go and give future firefighters some practical experience. We're building some more machine sheds to house our equipment over in our maintenance area, Area 5, where we'll finish the longhouses. We will start to add some support facilities, dining facilities, and headquarters buildings. And then we're adding an addition to our fire hall with some sleeping quarters because we do have a 24/7 fire department. That addition will give us admin space that'll include billeting area for our firefighters. And then finally, I'm excited that I might get 2 softball fields completely renovated here. And I intend to open that up to the Little Falls baseball community to see if we can find some little league teams that want to come here and practice on my ball fields. Next slide. One of the more exciting things that came out of the bonding bill this last year for us is the legislature approved the a facility for the Minnesota Military Museum. That museum is a separate 501c that manages a military museum on Camp Ripley. They have 5 acres right now. And they'll be moving to the 32-acre plot that is in orange there, just to the east of the Minnesota Military or the Veterans Cemetery. And the picture in the lower right is an artist's rendition of what that museum could look like. A very large building to support their collections and their displays indoors, as well as a vehicle park to display military vehicles and a parade ground, which we look forward to because we anticipate moving a lot of our ceremonial activities there. The building will also have a slice of Camp Ripley operations, as I hope to put my recruiters in that building and my access control station. So when you come to Camp Ripley and want to come on and visit me, you'll have to stop at the museum and get your vehicle pass at the museum, which will allow you access on to Camp Ripley. And we just think the synergy of that operation is going to be beneficial for both elements, and very excited to see the museum come in. Annually, we try to give you ideas of the amount of soldiers that you're going to see run around us here in the next couple of quarters. And so this is our outlay for third quarter of 21, starting in April, ending in June. And you can see that we've got it, specifically in June, almost 40,000 soldiers and civilians planned to come through in May, a little less in June. Part of that activity will be our annual veterans fishing and turkey hunting events for our disabled American veterans. The State Patrol is conducting their academy right now, and they're hosting 2 academy classes this year. One will graduate here in the spring and another one later in the summer. As they try to catch up, they were forced to cancel their academy last year. And so this gives them another chance to add more officers. And this week we are hosting the best warrior competition on the installation. The best soldiers from each one of the units in our state will come here, compete against each other, and we'll nominate a best NCO and a best soldier, and those individuals will go on to compete at the national level, all the way up to the Army level if they're good enough. We did draw a line through the NOREX this year. We were planning to host that here in March, and due to our inability to travel yet between here and Norway without having to have a quarantine period, we've decided to wait till 22 and try to give it a go then. In fourth quarter, as we look through July and August, you'll see that we've got a tremendous amount of military traffic coming through in those periods. A lot of artillery and engineer units, so we're going to be a noisy neighbor to yourself, specifically in July. We plan to host our Adjutant General's Youth Camp as well this summer. We'll once again be able to gather the youth of our military soldiers and provide them a youth camp experience. And then we anticipate, if you can see in September there, that our civilian traffic will be equal to our military traffic in September, specifically with the return of the Department of Transportation and the snowplow driver training that we normally see in September. Next slide. Of course, we couldn't, we're very proud of the full-time partners that we have on the installation. The DNR has 2 offices on the installation, their academy office, as well as a portion of their licensing bureau. State Patrol, as stated before, is conducting 2 of their academies this summer, and HSEM has trainers on post that provide training to emergency managers as well. The majority of that training is all contained in a building that we call the Emergency Management Training Center, and we're pretty proud that we were able to move the DNR law enforcement into there as well this last year. So now all those academy events are occurring under the same roof. And then once again, we'll have permanent staff here this fall for the Minnesota DOT snowplow driver training. Slide. Pretty proud of the upcoming community outreach as well as we work through the year. We will host an open house this September. This year, we are in the process of working with the Ojibwe tribes to provide us military veterans from those Indian tribes in our community. We want to highlight and emphasize the support of our Native American communities and their long history of providing members of the military to all the elements of the Department of Defense. We're excited that we get to start doing some of our environmental field tours this spring. We're starting to lay on some school tours with that. We've got a couple different, celebrations of different days coming up as well. Earth Day. We're supporting the Morrison County Environmental Day as well. This last winter, we're excited that we were able to have a food drive again that went well over 1,000 pounds of food that got donated to the Little Falls Food Shelf. And later this spring and later this summer, we'll continue to support our hunts, both archery and veteran soldier hunts and fishing for our disabled American veterans. I have to give credit again. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but our environmental program here continues to be award-winning. If you look on the right there, there's a tally of consistent quality performance at the Department of Defense level. And we're pretty proud of the fact that annually my environmental team that works directly for me can win a Department of Defense award. And they can only win it every other year. So you can tell that every other year they come up to the plate and knock it out. And, that they are constantly protecting all the different things you see on the left there, be it wildlife to fauna to wetlands. They're part of my noise reduction process, as well as rehabilitating terrain as units train on it so that it doesn't lose its character. Next slide. With a great environmental program and with a state agency as big as Camp Ripley, 56,000 acres of training area, I have a lot of different environmental oversight, and this is just a small list of different agencies that come in here and make sure that we're following the rules and protecting Camp Ripley for future generations. I normally don't worry about any of this inspection because I know that the quality of my environmental team and their award-winning postures as well to weather any inspection and pass it with flying colors. And so pretty excited about that and a continued oversight and performance. My environmental team's performance and their expertise wouldn't happen without the environmental partnerships that we've got. And those include the Department of Natural Resources, the Bowser, the Board of Water and Soil Resources is integral in helping us execute the ACUP program and the easements that we put in inside of that. Central Lakes College and St. Cloud State have active environmental programs that support us, be it internships throughout the summer or students that help us with our many different veterans hunts. They are constantly here helping us. The Nature Conservatory is a large partner as we work to protect swaths of land around Camp Ripley. And then obviously local school districts with their tours and that. One of the latest partnerships we've had, and you'll see a little bit of it on the last slide, but the U.S. Department of Ag has stepped forward and the Natural Resource Conservation Service is going to place a full-time forester here at Camp Ripley, whose job it is to go out in the community and help our neighbors put in fire protection plans to keep wildfires from becoming a problem outside of the installation. We're excited to host him, mainly because it's another way inside of the Sentinel landscape that we can show our value into helping our community. And more importantly, it helps us mitigate fires that might come onto Camp Ripley, as well as we try to mitigate them leaving. Next slide almost is a great segue into that. Annually, we burn almost 15,000 acres. This year, it's around 14,500 acres. We burned all day yesterday and all day today, so we're already 2,000 acres into that tally. And over the next month and a half, we will continue to turn all those parcels that are yellow on the map and dark red into black as we burn them off. And we predominantly, you can see that the areas we predominantly burn are in impact areas, which allow us then to not have to fight fires caused by our munitions later on in the year. as our training environment loads up. Final slide for your pleasure is our current status of our ACUB and our Sentinel landscape. Obviously, we're pretty proud of the potlatch land that we were able to help secure to the city of Baxter last year. This year, we've got almost $3 million of federal and state funding that we are working through, and we're working directly with Bowser to do more landowner easements around Camp Ripley. And this is more of a normal level of funding for us as we go through. The last 5 years, we've had a lot more funding, which has been abnormal. And so a constant rate of around $3 to $3.5 million of that money going back into the community is what we hope to find. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to open up the floor and try to answer any question you throw at me. And the picture on the screen is my great team that supports me every day in our efforts to make Camp Ripley the Warrior's Choice and a place to come and train. Thank you.
Okay, council or staff, anybody got any questions you'd like to ask? Comments you'd like to make?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So General, can you talk just a little bit about the Veterans Cemetery there? I think it's really a wonderful facility that is available to local citizens. And then a second question would be, has there ever been a thought about veterans homes in the state of Minnesota are always being looked at to be installed in different local communities? How about a veterans home right at Camp Ripley? Has there been any discussion about that at all? Those two questions.
Okay, so on your first question, just kind of overview of the State Veterans Cemetery, which is owned by the Department of Veterans Affairs. So it doesn't fall in the Department of Military Affairs, but it's adjacent to Camp Ripley and it shares our beautiful historic rock wall. So everybody thinks it's part of Camp Ripley. And I have no problem having that be thought of as part of my team because they are a first-rate organization. The state opened about 10 years ago several different veterans cemeteries across the state. One new one up by Duluth, one in southwestern Minnesota, and our own cemetery here at Camp Ripley. It's the home of a series of artwork done by a local artist by the name of Charles Kapsner, who just finished 2 years ago, a depiction of the final large murals that he's placed in the reception hall at the cemetery. Some beautiful artwork that if you get a chance to look, kind of traces the history of all the different branches of the military. This last year has been a challenge for the cemetery. They've had to move all their internment activities that normally happen inside of that reception hall outside. So there's been a lot of families as I drive by huddled around a casket outside, waiting to put a loved one as they bury them at the Veterans Cemetery there. I personally have registered to be buried there with my wife. If you didn't know, spouses of veterans are also buried there. They're buried together in the same grave plot. And the cemetery will eventually be filled. The demand for grave sites there is pretty large. Not immediately. They think they probably got 20, 25 years of capacity, but eventually there will be an end to the available space there. On the realm of veterans homes, I don't know that we've ever had a serious conversation about putting a veterans home here at Camp Ripley. We've been actively working with the city of Little Falls to work on some of our issues with the lack of childcare. And at one time we had a concept of placing a multi-use childcare center that the state would build and the city of Little Falls would manage in the vicinity of Camp Ripley, so that one of the predominant elements that would support that center would be my employees. I do know that there is good news. The Department of Veterans Affairs announced that they received their federal funding match for the veterans homes that they did get scoped out from the state legislature in the bonding bill. So I think there's 3 new veterans homes that are going to be built across the state this last year. But we haven't seriously talked about adding anything into the Camp Ripley footprint there. And, there might be some room outside the gate if we move to the south or something like that, but having that home on Camp Ripley proper is probably a little dysfunctional just for the security levels that we're trying to maintain inside of the installation, which is part of the reason why we encourage moving the museum outside of the installation boundaries and is out on that new 35-acre plot there east of the cemetery.
Thank you. Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Just a comment. Honestly, the presentation that you have done for city council is the one that just has stayed with me, you know, whether it was year before last or this year. And with all the crises that the state and the nation have experienced, every time I heard the National Guard had been deployed, I thought of you and am just so grateful and so proud to have you in our neighborhood. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. You know, I'm very proud of the response of our soldiers this last year. You know, I didn't talk about it in the slide, but this last year we averaged almost 80,000 man days on state active duty supporting your state. Other years, we averaged maybe 80 man days of state active duty. And so, you know, we have had soldiers, specifically our healthcare professionals that work for us, almost on constant state active duty since June. And, you know, they have left their homes and they continue to show up and do the good work of our state.
It doesn't go unnoticed. Please share our gratitude.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Anybody else? I got to believe in your career, you probably never envisioned the civil unrest and the COVID scenarios that you guys would be asked to be a part of.
Well, you know, the real truth, Mayor, is we never envisioned the governor coming to us in the middle of the night and saying, mobilize the whole National Guard. You know, and we are 11,000 person strong formation, but when you take out the 1/3 of our force that's off at Army schools becoming soldiers and stuff like that, you know, it was pretty phenomenal to mobilize 6,500 soldiers and have them all in the streets in Minneapolis and St. Paul in 12 to 15 hours. That's a pretty good statement. So
amazing. Anybody else? Well, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, well, I look forward to next year.
It's interesting every year, so thanks for being here.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you.
Connie, any additions or changes to the agenda? I'm sorry, let's go with Kelly.
No, Mayor, there are none.
How about public comments?
No comments have been received.
Okay, we'll dive right in then. Consent agenda. The following items are considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any council person, staff, citizen, or meeting attendee can request one or more items be pulled from the consent agenda. The item will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent agenda. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. A, approve city council work session minutes from March 16th, 2021. B, approve city council minutes from March 16th, 2021. C, approve city council special minutes from April 1st, 2021. D, approve the payment of bills and finance report. E, approve off-sale liquor license for Walmart for the licensing period April 7th, 2021 through June 30th, 2021, contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the liquor store addition. F, approve updated Parks and Trails supervisor and Parks and Trails lead maintenance job description. G, approve purchase of additional personal protective equipment using drug forfeiture funds. H, approve part 2 of the MS4 permit application for submittal on April 14th, 2021, and authorize the mayor to sign. I, adopt resolution number 2021-016 to enter into MnDOT agreement number 1036350 for the construction of the 2021 Truck Highway 210 Street Lighting Improvements Project. J, approve the sale of retired K9 Squad 2014 SUV.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Cross,
Second.
second by Tabbitt. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabit,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes, and that motion passes. We're on number 9A. Adopt resolution 2021-017, ordering improvements for the 2021 mill and overlay and full depth reclamation improvements project, municipal project number 4421. Trevor?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. What's in front of you tonight is the resolution ordering the improvements for this year's mill and overlay and full depth reclamation improvements project, which is really only two street projects. One is on College Road, one is on Isle Drive. Then also in the improvements this year is also the Paris Road entrance project on the Paul Bunyan Trail entrance into the city of Baxter, and then also the streetlights on Trunk Highway 210 at the intersections of Memory Wood and Meredith. We do need a 4/5 vote for this resolution to go forward. If for some reason the project does not go forward tonight, we would be asking the city council then for an amendment to the streets budget in order to patch College Road and Isle Drive so we can get through till next year when we would bring it back as a project in 2022. I don't know if I can add much more than that. It's pretty much an overview, Mayor
Okay.
and Council.
That's fine. Any questions or comments of Trevor or anybody else on staff?
Just so, Mr. Mayor, councilors, and Trevor, the only comment I'd say on this, and it's, thank you to staff for putting this all together and for all of us to brainstorm and come up with ideas, and different alternatives or things or whatever. But during one of our sessions, I brought up a point about, the mayor talked also about public safety signage at Gloria and Isle, and also some identifying signage for clinics and medical facilities. And I know that's not part of this project, but I just want to remind us about that. And so, Brad and I have also talked about that. So just want to bring that up again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Cross. Second by Licio. Any further comment or discussion? Roll call?
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabit,
Because of a conflict of interest, I have to abstain.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Thank you. That motion passes. We move on to council comments. Ms. Licio?
I actually have none. Thank you.
Zach?
No comment.
Mr. Ward?
Just one thing, a lot of the mayor and council last meeting praised the staff, and I think we always need to praise the staff, but one in particular, I had some constituents get hold of me on Holy Saturday, and I got hold of some staff regarding the issue, and I want to just say, a thank you to the staff that got involved in that and got it taken care of and resolved on a holiday weekend. So I want to again say the staff's accolades, sing the staff's accolades, going beyond the call of duty continually. So thank you to all that staff that was involved in that whole process this past weekend.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Well, yes, it's that time of year. Enjoy the weather and pay attention because the motorcycles are out there. Thank you.
Okay. The only thing I got a phone call this morning telling me that the annual commemoration of the Baton Death March is going to happen Friday morning at 10 o'clock at the National Guard Armory in the same place that it always is. I'm not sure what the deal was. Kind of a short fuse, I guess, but anyway, nevertheless, that has gone out now. So they're talking Friday, 10 o'clock. Again, it looks like it's gonna rain every day, so they probably go inside. But anyway, I just make that announcement. City Administrator, anything, Kelly?
No comment tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Then we look at the City Attorney.
Looking for a motion to go into close regarding the acquisition of real estate.
Okay, motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Motion by Cross,
Second.
second by Alessio. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Cross,
Yes.
Lizio,
Yes.
Tabit, Tabit,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Anybody who might be listening, we will be coming back into open session with any discussion that decisions that might have been made. So we will leave now. Okay, we're back into open session at 8:11. I'll ask our city attorney to make a summation here.
Sure, I guess we don't necessarily need a motion, but I guess we could make a motion just to confirm what happened in close. So the motion would simply be to, based on the consensus in closed session, is to direct staff to continue negotiations as discussed in closed session.
Okay. We have a motion by Cross,
Second.
second by Zach. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Cabot,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Yes.
Olson.
Now we'll have a motion to adjourn. We like to hear our voices, so we'll do it one more time. Motion to adjourn.
Connie will make a motion to adjourn.
Licio,
Ward,
second Ward. Any further discussion? Roll call one more time, Kelly.
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes, please.
Cabot,
Yes.
Ward,
yes.
and Olson.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We'll